people will generally say that the golden period for the WWF, putting aside the Attitude Era, was sort of 86 through to about 1991, when we had the Iraq Sergeant Slaughter as an Iraqi sympathiser storyline, with Colonel Adnan, and I used to call him Colonel Eggplant, and General Mustafa. And then we had the WrestleMania when the main event versus Hulk Hogan was moved to a smaller venue because of security concerns. I'm doing those speech marks because that's what people thought. Oh yeah, security concerns. So it's that kind of, that was a slackening off, people think. However, in 92, you did get Ric Flair coming from the NWA with his belt, because he had some argument with them. I can't remember what it was. And that segued into the greatest Royal Rumble I've ever seen. And I was there at the beginning of them, folks. 1992, it's beautifully done, that Royal Rumble match. Beautifully done. However, the kind of period between 92, when they came to Wembley Stadium, filled it, through to when the Attitude Era happened, and we get the 96 weeks and all of that, and that the WCW were on top and all of that. And that kind of period is seen as a sort of lost period, really. So I've delved straight into it, as you might expect. I've been having a look at the 88 and 89, 87 and 88 periods of Wrestling Challenge. And what you get is, you get squash matches, so not really good matches, but they're carried along by people really loving what's happening there. There's a kind of, look at that, something on my nail there. Ooh, that looks a bit fetid. Look at that, horrible. I'll look at that later. Anyway, it's carried along by people's excitement, general excitement about it's the WWF. So that kind of feeling is really febrile. Febrile feeling. The feeling of febrility. If that's, is febrility a word? Febrility, well, it is now. That's the great thing about the English language. You can do all sorts of things with it. So, I've dived into this Wrestling Challenge, which is at the end of January 1993. And they're going into, they just had the Royal Rumble, when Yokozuna is the winner, and the big heel, all Japanese, of course he wasn't Japanese, now sadly passed, with Mr. Fuji in his corner, big heel. I don't know if he had a big heel, I don't know if it was distended or anything. I could check it out, but I can't be bothered. But he was a big heel at the time, and he will be facing The Undertaker first, and then Bret Hart at WrestleMania. Remember, this WrestleMania was the one, WrestleMania 10 was a cracker. Remember, with Bret Hart fighting at the beginning and at the end, getting beaten by his brother in the first match. I never really thought that would happen. By Owen, sadly missed, in the first match. It was a cracker, that one. 9 wasn't. It was the one outdoors in Las Vegas with the toga party theme, and Bobby Heenan on a camel. And it was the one where Bret Hart fought Yokozuna. He lost, I think. He had salt in the eyes, if I remember rightly. And suddenly, here's Hulk Hogan, and Bret Hart's going, "Go on, you have a go, Hulk. Go on." It didn't seem right, did it? And of course, he won, didn't he? Did he win? I think he did. It didn't seem right, that ending at all. So that's where I am now. We're moving into that. What we've also got, some of the big angles are things you think, oh, I don't know. We've got Gorilla Monsoon with Bobby Heenan. I mean, that's a dream team, isn't it? Because they really like each other. And at the moment, you've got the Giant Gonzalez there. They're bigging him up, because he is big. Never have I seen such a big man in the ring. Never have I seen such a terrible wrestler. Well, there are others. I have seen quite a lot of them. But it's sad, really, isn't it? He wasn't really fit for that. He couldn't speak the language as well, so he couldn't do promos. He didn't look good in the ring. I don't think he could do many moves. All of that. Anyway, we've got, for the first match, Bam Bam. Bam Bam. Yes, Bam Bam Bigelow making his second appearance in WWF. Of course he will. Does he come and go again? Because he faces Lawrence Taylor, doesn't he? Is that to come or has that been? Anyway, as I say, I could look it up, but I can't be bothered. So he's facing Tim Hunter, and you know he's going to win. But at least Bam Bam pulls out some moves here. So they're coming to the UK again, by the way. I didn't see them on that tour because I wasn't really interested. I did on the 1991 tour in the nosebleed seats. Terrible. But anyway, he pulls out some moves, does Bam Bam. So you've got a Beal, a vertical suplex, a brainbuster, a headbutt off the top. You like that move? To which Gorilla Monsoon describes it, to which Gorilla Monsoon comments, about which Gorilla Monsoon comments, that's more like it, that he looks like a big condor. Not quite sure. Anyway, next we've got Skinner, the alligator man from the Everglades. Do you remember, Steve Keirn wasn't really in the WWF for long, was he? But he's really trying to do it here. I don't know who he's fighting. They mentioned that Ric Flair is gone, but he's at WrestleMania, so he can't be, can he? Anyway, we've got an armbar from Steve while he's rubbing his forearm across his head. He was quite a spoiler. It's great, really. Suplex, headbutt, stands on the neck, gets a full Nelson while he's on the mat. Looks a bit weird. Slaps him about, then gets a slop drop, which is called the alligator neck breaker for the pin. He pulled some moves out as well, and he's got that shrunken alligator head, or, baby alligator head, and he's brushing his hair with it. He really has a good time. Really good time. And I don't know why he didn't do more with the WWF, because he's pretty good here. Now, here's one of your main angles. Kamala is facing James Santos, right? It is a squash match, but he's coming down to the ring with Reverend Slick, who's had a haircut. Now, he was always called the Reverend Slick, wasn't he? But I think at this point, he was a real reverend. He'd found the light, hadn't he? He mentions later on a promo that Kamala is now going towards the light because he's left Kim Chi and he's left Harvey Whippleman, Downtown Bruno, and he will be under the tutelage of Slick, who's trying to make him a nicer person. So, when he's facing James Santos, he gets a big shot and some shots and a big boot. He chokes him and Slick says, no, don't do that. But then he stands on him and Slick seems to be okay with that. When he finally gets the splash to the back, he tries to pin him that way and Slick says, no, turn him over. So he turns him completely over again. No, turn him halfway. It's hilarious, folks. Hilarious. So, yeah, that's your big angle here. Another big angle is that the narcissist is here, Lex Luger. They didn't have him as the narcissist for long, did they? They had the Lex Express very soon, didn't they? And then he'd be in WCW, wouldn't he, causing some consternation because his contract had lapsed. Raw, which is still going on at this point, he's there at this point, fairly new, I think, if I remember rightly, was recorded and Nitro wasn't, so he could turn up on Nitro and nobody would know about it. And he was out of contract. That was a big move. Big move. Anyway, here, he's under the tutelage or under the managership of Bobby Heenan, who's bigging him up as a perfect man and talking about Mr. Perfect, who he used to be an advisor to, did Bobby, saying he's not perfect, Lex Luger is. Unfortunately, they're talking to him on the screen while they are sitting there, so a little monitor, so his face is like that, he's like that. And it looks like, he's filling the screen like that. You think, well, you don't look like the perfect, lovely, gorgeous man. You look like an Easter Island head. Looks terrible. It's just... Anyway, he said that describing him to Mr. Perfect, he's like comparing ice cream to horse manure. I'd agree, but not the way you thought it, Lex. Anyway, I just don't like his wrestling. I prefer Mr. Perfect's wrestling, to be honest. Kurt Hennig. We've got the champions, tag team champions, Money Inc. here now. First, that would be Ted DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster. And we've also got them facing Jerry Stevens and Robert Taylor. Top contenders. They're not going to win. And it does show that Erwin R. You'll be surely audited next year. And Ted DiBiase, Ted Diabase, were good together. They get in and out very nicely. IRS hits at Rotundo, hits at a fireman's carry takeover after a big Dibiashi clothesline. Look great. Double clothesline, Dibiashi suplex, spine buster, flying clothesline, which did look good from IRS, and that's the pin. It was a bit meh, but it was okay. Oh, Mr. Fuji. Oh. Yeah, we've got all that going on. And because Yokozuna is going to face The Undertaker. The Undertaker. And also with another story, we'll get to this in a minute, actually, after Raymond Rougeau. Raymond Rougeau has All American Boys. We've got the Mountie at this point. I'm the Mountie. We've got that. Because that's his brother, isn't it? Anyway, he's interviewing Hacksaw Jim Duggan on what looks like to be Saturday Night's main event. And he's talking about how he's, such a USA fan. And how dare Fuji say that USA workers aren't working hard enough. And it's Japan versus USA with that Yokozuna. I think he's going to fight him next. So that's another big move for you. Another big story. And here's another one. Shawn Michaels has either lost Sherry as his main squeeze or kicked her to the curb. And she is now aligned with Marty Jannetty, who will face very soon Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental title. Now, this allows Bobby Heenan to talk about, he's always been doing that, Jannetty, picking up Shawn Michaels' leftovers, all of that. But anyway, he's facing Mike Williams. There's a headlock which is worked and a rocker dropper for the pin, and it doesn't really work very well. She can't do any of that kind of shouting or a bit kind of sexy stuff that she... I mean, I like Sherry's work very much in the ring and out of it. And I think that they don't look good together, and it didn't last for long, did it? Now, Olay! It's the Matador, apparently looking forward to more success in the months and years to come. No, this will be the last thing that Tito Santana does with WWF, won't it, in the ring in that way. They repackaged him. It didn't really work. We don't know who he's fighting here. It's somebody with a mask. They mention him, but they never tell us who it is. He puts an arm ringer on and a stomp, a flying fist to the back of the head, which is quite nasty, actually, for the pin. That's about it. And we've also got Doink. Yes, Doink is making his first appearance here. Then they say he was there with a lead-lined plastic cast the other night. I don't know whether he was interfering in a fight or something, but they looked at it and it was lead-lined. And he's facing Bob East. But Doink's great, isn't he? I mean, it all gets a bit silly when Dink's in there and all that kind of stuff. But he attacked Crush the other night on Saturday Night's main event. And, you know, Matt Bourne's, his work here is great. I mean, I love the look at his eyes change. You do see him looking at the camera at the end and suddenly becoming troubled. It's great. Really, really good. Big fireman's carry, high drop kick, snap suplex, enziguri, which is called, look at that wrestling move. It's an enziguri, Bobby. And then he rolls him up for the pin, which, according to Gorilla Monsoon, is a crucifix with a half crab. Is it? Bloody hell. And there are some interesting things here. There are some interesting things going on. But it doesn't have the impetus that the late 80s stuff had. And that's really interesting. It just doesn't look as good. It just doesn't look as quality. And it doesn't have that excitement. That's what it is. It labours slightly. They're introducing loads of stuff. It doesn't quite work. And that is really, really interesting. Will I continue to watch? Of course I will. I'm a wrestling fanatic, particularly of this kind of period. Ta-ta.